In this video, I went for the Platinum Trophy for Doom, The Dark Ages. And I've never played a Doom game before, so as soon as I found out that The Dark Ages was indeed a prequel to Doom 2016, I thought it would be a perfect time to start on the franchise. The game takes place in what looks like a medieval era, where the only thing older than the setting is my patience by the time I hit my 100th death screen. I chose Nightmare difficulty, not because I hate myself, but because apparently I love stress. Now, there were two other difficulties above it, but they came with a little thing called permadeath. And while I like a challenge, I also like not restarting a 20-hour game because I sneezed into a stray bullet. Nightmare is aggressive, brutal, and just forgiving enough to make you believe you have a chance, right before it pulls the rug out and breaks your knees with it. I also went full gremlin and decided to skip upgrades entirely, not because I'm a purist, but because the upgrade trophy was bugged. So naturally I said screw it, no upgrades, no mercy. Would I still have done it if the trophy wasn't bugged? No, but now I have an excuse for the pain. Parrying is surprisingly clean and very forgiving. You can only deflect green attacks while everything else slaps you into next week. But when it works, it's like high-fiving your enemy's jaw with Captain America's shield if it was modified by Chuck Green.
Yeah!
That said, Nightmare difficulty doesn't just chew on your armor, it vaporizes it. And at some point, armor started feeling like a placebo more than anything. But there are highlights. Big, glorious, steel-plated highlights. And nothing screams badass like piloting a mech that punches demons like it's late for a cage match. So y'all remember the Rock'em Sock'em Robots game on the PS1? Yeah, it felt just like that, even though it's clearly Pacific Rim, but I guess I just missed that game. And then they gave me a dragon with turrets, because why not? If I'm not slaying Hellspawn while riding a flying war lizard, are we even trying? With that said, the story wasn't the best, but it got its point across. You are playing as the Doom guy, and in here you are enslaved by the Makers, in which they're allied with the Sentinels in order to fend off the forces of hell from getting the Heart of Argent, which apparently holds tons of power. The trophy list is surprisingly chill, however. Almost everything is unmissable except for a couple of collectibles that range from cute little figurines to your generic codexes, to your hidden rubies used to upgrade your weapons, which unfortunately for us, would have to just chill on top of the right corner of our screen until I reach the cleanup phase. So let's talk about the story. At the beginning of the game, the Hellspawn was already wreaking havoc, so they ask for backup and the Makers send their ultimate weapon, hence enters Doom Guy, and cool Doom intro with cool Doom heavy metal music. Something cool about this game is that it actually shows all of the collectibles on the map, which is a breath of fresh air. Well, ever since the drop from the Maker's Death Star, I've just been blasting demons without a single thought going through my head, up until I reached the finale of the first chapter, where I had to man a turret and single-handedly take down one of these giant monster things with Iron Man's medieval pulse arrow. Cutscene plays out, and the king, or whatever he is, looks at the Slayer with zero trust, even if he just mowed down thousands of demons in a matter of 20 minutes and literally saving everyone there. Another scene plays where Azrak and friends were watching the Doom Guy's kill cam as fear slowly creeped into their hearts. I mean, as they should. This would get my first trophy, a dark beginning. Chapter 2 begins with the Slayer slowly getting his consciousness back, only for the Makers to dial up the meter just a little bit to keep him in his place. Then they set him back down to continue our fun gameplay of Power Wash Simulator, Hell Edition. Here I find one of the leaders, and this is pretty much like a mini boss fight. Smaller demons would continue to spawn until you take the leader down, which makes sense. Taking a leader down would not only get me a permanent upgrade, but also another trophy. So that was the very eventful Chapter 2, but now it's time for the pretty badass mech battles. Well, in the mech I can dodge, do a Bruce Lee palm strike, stomping the ground that stuns enemies for a brief time, and your generic punching. Sometimes the game does give you weapons too, which is pretty cool. Still the same premise though, except this time I'm just squeezing the trigger and looking cool while doing it. There was this one guy with a shield, and since I'm not the brightest in the bunch, it turns out if I punch a menacingly bright red energy field surrounding this dude's shield, I get damaged, and I found this out the hard way. But this chapter was pretty short, and I got another trophy called Supersized Brawl. In chapter 4, the Hell people finally found the heart, and now I have to race there before they get to it. However, this is where I slowly started regretting not pulling up a guide for these collectibles, since it did take me a hot minute to figure out how to get to a specific spot. I know the map shows it, but I still can't figure out how to get there, and the frustration slowly crept in as I walked in circles looking for a hidden path or a secret door somewhere. Ah, look at that. Oh, god damn it. Bruh. 20 years later, I managed to progress through the story only to encounter the boss for this chapter. The Vagary Champion, or Vagary Champion, I don't know how you pronounce it, marches into the screen with all the subtlety of a flaming warhammer through a dry wall. A grotesque biomechanical spider straight out of a H.R. Giger fever dream. It launches these cool looking glowing orbs that float towards you with the same slow, deliberate menace as the projectiles in Returnal. Except instead of being elegant and futuristic, these were more of the sluggish types that's really easy to count, which made this first champion an actual cakewalk because of it. But now it's Dragon time, and this section kind of feels like a lengthy minigame where I had to auto-lock to enemies while my index finger was permanently cemented on the trigger as I occasionally dodged the attacks. There are specific landing spots where I go from a good break from just running around and turning demons into paste to going back to the same thing I've been doing since I clicked install. But this is when the game slowly starts throwing random bullshit at me as they hope for the best. Well, I'm already at 18 deaths in, but I guess that's pretty good from someone who's never played the game starting off on Nightmare difficulty. But now I can go retrieve the heart before the big baddie does. Your edgy goth ex-girlfriend throws out a barrier closing off Doom Guy from getting to them, and then the leader or king or whatever this dude is was just chilling right next to the amulet as they blow up the whole damn place anyways, and then he throws a flashbang for the lulz and then zips away. I don't think I understand what the purpose of this was, but after finishing the game, it did sort of kind of make sense, kind of. But at the same time, he could have just taken the heart, zipped away, and then blew it up. Who knew that the president of the Sentinels, or king or whatever he is, was such a toxic player? I guess he just really wanted to piss off Hell Daddy just because, and I respect it actually. I did get another trophy for finishing that chapter, but I ended up missing a bunch of collectibles while I was there, which will unfortunately be part of our ultimately growing cleanup phase after beating the game. I'm still hellbent on doing this whole thing without a guide. I just have to check all the nooks and crannies for the next section. Speaking of the next section, the Slayer finally powered through the mind control thing that was holding him captive, and as he was about to show every makers on that ship what Earth's knuckle sandwich tastes like, they prematurely deployed him down to the battlefield to save their hide and pretended that nothing happened. Since for some reason the Slayer just doesn't relay any messages or talk. Making absolutely sure that I don't miss a single collectible, half of this gameplay is just me checking the map over and over again. 100% sure that I got everything I needed, I finished the chapter only to find out that I got a 99% because I forgot to do one of the challenges. Great. The Hellboys finally catch up to the Pope or the King or whatever he is, only for the Slayer to interrupt them with the most menacing entrance that anyone could ever do.
Well, you better run, better run, better run.
Unfortunately, the Witch Lady blasted Slayer off the building, which buys Azrak enough time to check the amulet only to find out that the heart wasn't inside. And Slayer makes another entrance, and even more badass than the first, this dude said his first words, which I didn't think that he knew how to speak to begin with. Damn, he said run! He talked. Doesn't he talk? But now Azrak was turning to the makers and convincing him to help them find where the heart is, as the screen abruptly ends in anticipation. And at this point, I already know what's about to happen next because this has been the same thing since the beginning of the game, and I guess this is just what Doom is as a game. And don't get me wrong, it is fun, but in terms of trying to talk about the actual combat and mechanics, yeah, there's not a lot to talk about. I mean, I died a bunch, like a lot actually, and I ran around like a maniac and blasted demons in the face. Like, that was pretty much it. What do you expect from Doom Guy? There was the Agadon champion actually, and he was a walking tank, wrapped in a crackling barrier that dared me to get close. From afar, he was invincible. Every bullet I threw his way bounced off like sparks from a grinder. The only way to bring him down was to step into his world. And the moment I crossed that threshold, his shield would then disappear, and the fight transformed into something primal. From here is just a deadly rhythm of pairs and counters, where timing was a matter of life, or me being the next special thin crust pizza from Papa John's.
Papa John's new thin crust pizza.
But I stayed locked in, reading every move and learned his patterns like I had the Sharingan. And as the final blow landed, I cut this thing in half and very rudely kicked half of his carcass across the room. Besides him, it's back to the usual kill the leader while a horde of Hellspawn acts as a nuisance spiel. So it turns out that the power the Hellspawn was looking for was in the mayor or king's daughter all along. Unfortunately, that mind control thing on the Slayer's heart was actually a GoPro, so Jabba the Hutt over here saw everything. And not even a minute has passed and this man already had hell on speed dial. style. So you already know what's about to happen, but before that I finally met my first roadblock in the game. In this section is a very tall devil with a machine gun on its hand like Barret from Final Fantasy VII. So this guy is actually the leader here, and for me to damage said guy I need to pretty much get rid of a couple of enemies until his shield goes down. Which I quickly realized after trying to fight this man in one-on-one combat like a gentleman that I am, only to find out that he is indeed a coward, and the fact that I couldn't damage him at all proved how much brain cells I had left in my HDD drive. Anyway, so going around the map dodging a billion artillery fire from everyone in the neighborhood, right? So it turns out the machine gun Kelly over here can spawn these spikes from anywhere in the map. It didn't matter if I was in line of sight, these thorns from literal hell just spawn out of nowhere, and on Nightmare, these things can pretty much two-tap me if I wasn't careful enough. Yeah, so I was dealing with this nonsense the entire time, and in turn, my animal instincts kicked in as I pretty much panic ran all over the place, pretending like I'm a cracked MLG player, but that didn't go well either. I could also plan out my moves, but then again, my penchant for brain power instinctively tells me to keep doing what I'm doing, until something miraculous happens. Or maybe I was just frustrated at this point. Either way, I ate the pavement multiple times until I finally got my lucky break and eventually beating this corny ass mini boss once and for all. Oh my god, he's still alive! Get out of my face, dude!
Fire core identified. Destroy it to disable the cannon.
I then got to destroy a cannon, on which I forgot why I was doing it in the first place, as all of the story stuff has quickly vanished from my brain because I was too focused on trying to kill this dickhead. At some point in the game, it did start becoming like filler chapters as I just roamed about killing things and closing demon portals, and this lasted for a hot minute. The game tried to keep it fresh as best it could, but when it had me controlling in another mech for more Gundam Kung Fu and more dragon segments of biting necks and forcing demons to chug my microwave tomato soup, because it already knows that if it just cuts to the chase, it would definitely be less than a 20-hour experience, which would then make the price tag of $70 be super outrageous. I mean, now that I'm writing this, I don't think I can back up the pricing versus what the actual content for this game actually is. I mean, it's good, but is it $70 good? This is why I can't review games. I'm not sure whether something is legitimately good or not. Anyways, the bad guys eventually find the actual heart of Argentina, and when they thought that they were safe on a very fortified tower, a huge tentacle just showed up out of nowhere like an underground anime convention. Literally, if that's the thing that the enemy can do, like, where else can you hide at this point? It didn't just kidnap the main person we were supposed to protect, but a whole freaking tower with all of its employees in it. And they were probably called in on their days off with it, which is crazy. With hell having the upper hand, I went ahead and did the only thing I can ever do in this game, and that's to kick ass out of frustration. And in comes the last champion that hell has sent to destroy us, the Komodo champion. And as the name suggests, yes, this thing is a giant mechanical Komodo dragon with a long spear, built-in turrets, and the same aggression that John Cena had on his WWE debut.
Ruthless aggression.
Definitely intimidating and probably my second most hated enemy to go up against. While on this thing's introductory battle, it wasn't that difficult because it was only the two of us, so I ended up running laps around it as I picked up health packs and armor. I mean, I say easy, but I was still a hair inch away from death, like, the whole time. So it was just me and my chain ball smacking this thing over and over again until I ended up sawing its head off for another sweet trophy. And this is also where the game gives us the BFC, which is pretty much the equivalent of the rocket launcher in Resident Evil 4. This was my get out of jail free card, or in my case, get out of getting my out of, because in this game are. Unfortunately, the ammo for the BFC is very limited, so if I end up using one, it better be worth it. So now we have to figure out how to get the hell itself and rescue the damsel in distress. And obviously, in a simple solution to access the unknown, we revive Cthulhu himself. Because obviously that's just what you do. Did you know that lettuce is just a filling used in salad? Well, this game uses a lot of lettuce, as I spend another 2 chapters or so trying to escape Cthulhu's wet dream, as he eventually swallows me whole and now I have to escape his innards. Why are there thousands of demon spawns in here like they've been living inside this dude for ages? Well, there was a point in this level where I absolutely got pummeled into a fine paste. So while going for the collectibles, there's an area here where I had to survive a gauntlet, and in this small tight spaced area are acids. Acids that if I touch it ever so slightly, eats up a huge chunk of my HP. And not only that, but some enemies have this passive ability that buffs all their allies near them, which means they not only hurt more, but are now walking miniature tanks of destruction. Oh, and to make matters worse, after countless deaths and some awkward rage moments, the final boss for this area is none other than my arch nemesis, Hostelgado. Oh, mother. Oh, yes. This was a very fun time for my doctor as my blood pressure and heart rate shot up tenfold as I suffered in this literal pit of an area, just for one stupid plushie. I then proceeded to give Cthulhu a literal heart attack with a BFC at point blank range, so then I got flushed out of his system just for me to die. Well, that was a lie. I actually didn't die like that, but instead I got trapped inside this prism held by these other Cthulhu wannabes as the Slayer literally detonates his mind heart control thing on his chest that caused an explosion, which in turn got him killed and disintegrated in the acid below. But as a canonical badass the Slayer is, he then becomes a zombie as he ravages through the afterlife and kills pretty much anything that gets in his way. This was the chapter where he was trying to get to somewhere. I don't really know where he's trying to get to since he's already dead.
Payment required.
Hell yeah. Even stealing a whole ass ship to get to it. Not really sure, nor do I remember the reasoning for this because the Sentinels performed a ritual anyways to bring the Slayer back from the afterlife. Along with his gear and everything too. Like a very convenient resurrection if I do say so myself. Close to wrapping up the game here, I ended up getting all the essential upgrades for defeating various mini-bosses throughout the game. And that's for maxing out my health and my armor. Finally, cleaning up loose ends, I ended up meeting with Creed Maker. And this boss fight was more for show from what it looked like because this boss was probably the easiest out of all of them. He of course has a second phase, however, where he ends up doing the exact same moves, but naked. And that was the fun boss fight for the trophy, Argent Return. With the Snitch dead, it was time to rescue the princess from hell itself. And what better way to get there than on another mech? But eventually I was going to have to fight the main bad guy himself, but now as the enhanced Azrak, because he took his shirt off. Like, what's with these dudes taking their shirt off and being stronger? I don't know. Well, the boss fight itself from the main bad guy was flashy and quite entertaining. Unfortunately, it was watered down with not one, nor two, but 3 phases of the same movesets. Like, normally 2 phases is what makes you go, oh, no, a second phase, I thought it was done. But once I saw the 3rd phase, it was just downright ridiculous, man. And the fact that he still manages to get away means that there's going to be more phases of him later on in the game. And with the heart finally back to where it belongs, that was another trophy called the Only Thing They Fear. And the final act is to find Azrak and to end his 3-phase cheese once and for all. And on the way there, I managed to get all the codexes and the final essential upgrade for 2 more trophies. Now, the final boss fight before the game's climax wasn't as flashy as some games tend to make the fight to be. So instead of one giant monstrosity, it's just a 2v1 fight against the witch that just shoots out random balls that covers pretty much the whole area. And then there's normal Azrak, still doing the same moves he's been doing since our last 3 fights from earlier. Well, you might have guessed it, but this fight also has 2 phases, with the first phase actually being a cool little hot potato-esque fight since the witch can only cast her shield bubble on one person at a time. I just had to attack the one that doesn't have the bubble, though. After I kill the witch, the second phase is just Azrak with his boring old self, and yeah, there's really nothing else to talk about when it comes to this dude. After the fight, the Slayer then proceeds to end this man's whole career with his Morning Star with all the frustration that this guy had given us throughout the whole game. And now it's time for the cleanup phase. On my blind playthrough, I didn't know the challenges were part of the 100% completion of a chapter, so that's what I ended up doing first, and getting all the figurines for Toy Collector. To start on the weapon challenges, I needed all my weapons and shield to be upgraded to max first, which are all related to their individual trophies as well. After maxing everything out, it was time to focus on the challenges, and for the main purpose of this video, I am still playing on Nightmare just because. So there is still a lot of dying happening, but this is where I have to finish all the challenges for every weapon in the game. And every weapon has a different requirement, and this would normally be a pain in the ass, but fortunately all the progress is kept even after dying. So you might have already guessed the sigh of relief I had after learning about this. After finishing a weapons challenge, this would give me the fully loaded trophy. There are certain weapons that are a pain in the ass to progress with, like damaging enemies with ricocheted bullets, and it even bugged out on me where it stopped ricocheting at one point in the run. But after running this level over and over again, doing every single challenge for every single gun, which was low-key kind of fun since like it kind of forced me to play differently than I've been playing like the whole game, which is just panic run all over the place and just spray and pray. Pretty much that's I think that's how you play Doom really. But I finally got the final trophy and the platinum. Should be platinum. Ruby. Completionist. Let's go. If you guys reach it this far, I appreciate y'all. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. The bell thing, you can click on that to notify when I eventually post a video. I am trying really hard to post since I do work full time, taking care of the fam and trying to stream. Yeah, so keep it real, but not too real, because that's just boring. And always remember to have a phenomenal day. Groovy.